Hidden cruelty always reveals true character. Oh, that's the delicious part, isn't it? People walk around pretending they're performers in some grand little play, acting like they've nailed the role of good human being. They rehearse their smiles, polish their voices, adjust their expressions just enough to seem gentle, kind, harmless. But cruelty, real cruelty, doesn't vanish under makeup. It leaks. It slips through the cracks of their perfect mask. It shows up in how they talk to you when no one's listening, how their eyes sharpen when you're vulnerable, how they suddenly grow brave only when they think you can't fight back. They don't even realize it, but every time they act like that, they reveal exactly who they are. You see, hidden cruelty is never truly hidden. It's more like a stain they keep trying to scrub out of a white shirt. Sure, they'll cover it with a jacket, maybe throw on a scarf, pretend it's not there. But the moment the light hits them the wrong way, oh, there it is. And the funniest thing, they swear they're fooling everyone. They believe they're clever. They believe no one sees the way they twist their words, just enough to wound you without leaving a bruise. They believe their little smirks are invisible, that their passive-aggressive digs are subtle, that their intentions stay locked safely behind their polite expressions. But cruelty, it has a way of glowing in the dark, and the world has a way of noticing. People think real cruelty is loud shouting, violence, chaos. But no, the most dangerous kind is quiet. It's the cruelty that comes wrapped in concern, or dipped in sugar, or whispered while pretending to be your friend. It's the cruelty that sits right next to you, smiling, while plotting just how to make you feel small, inferior, shaken in your own skin. The kind that acts shocked. Shocked! If you ever call it out. Who? Me? I didn't mean it like that. Of course they didn't. They never do. Their intentions are always clean, or at least that's the story they keep telling everyone. But the truth? You can only hide what you are for so long. Eventually something slips. Eventually someone sees the pattern. Eventually, even if nobody speaks up, even if nobody exposes them, even if everybody else is still falling for the act, they're already exposed. Because the moment they chose cruelty, real, calculated cruelty, they carve their real face underneath the one they show the world. And that real face can't stay buried forever. It shows in the way people start drifting away from them without knowing why. It shows in how their relationships crack piece by piece. It shows in the discomfort others feel around them, that eerie instinct that whispers, something's off about this person. Even if they haven't been caught, even if they haven't been confronted, the world around them senses something. Hidden cruelty gives off a scent, and once it's there, you can't perfume over it. But the most important part is this: their cruelty towards you didn't make you weak. It didn't make you blind. It didn't make you foolish. If anything, it made them transparent. Their behavior revealed their true character long before they realized they were showing anything at all. While they thought they were tearing you down, they were actually tearing off their own mask. While they believed they were operating from the shadows, they were accidentally shining a spotlight on their true nature. And the world, the universe, the very energy around them, it pays attention to these things. It always does. Cruelty is like a confession they didn't mean to make, but made anyway. And once you know who someone really is underneath the costume, the game changes forever. Justice moves quietly before it moves suddenly, almost like it enjoys watching people squirm in the silence before the storm hits. Everyone thinks justice comes with trumpets, alarms, flashing lights. No, real justice prefers shadows. It watches, it listens, it waits. It lets people build their own little tower of lies, layer by layer, thinking they're safe up there, thinking nothing will ever catch up to them, thinking the world forgot what they did. But justice has patience most people don't. It doesn't rush. It doesn't shout. It lets the guilty feel comfortable enough to reveal themselves. You see, the ones who wronged you, they always expect consequences to fall immediately. If nothing happens right away, they take it as permission. They think, look at that, nothing touched me. I'm untouchable. And that's when they make their biggest mistakes. Because justice doesn't strike when they're prepared. It waits until they believe they're invincible. It waits until they get sloppy. It waits until they've talked too much, stepped too far, played too cruelly. It waits for the moment when they're finally convinced they've escaped the fallout. That's when justice lifts its head. There's something almost poetic about it. The quiet before everything collapses. The way they laugh while the ground already trembles under them. The way they continue their little games, unaware that every move they make digs the hole deeper. They think silence means safety. They think delay means forgiveness. They think the universe is busy with bigger problems. But justice is never distracted. It's just patient. And patience is far more dangerous than anger. People who hurt others always look over their shoulder for a while. But once nothing seems to happen, they stop checking. They relax. They start living comfortably again. They get bolder, more careless, more confident. They believe they've won. They treat you like you're the one who lost. They assume that because you didn't fight back immediately, because life didn't thunder down on them that second, the story is over. They forget that the world doesn't operate on their schedule. Justice doesn't punch a clock. And while they're busy celebrating their imaginary victory, something starts brewing. Connections form. Truths slip out. People talk. Patterns reveal themselves. Their name starts floating in the wrong conversations. Their lies start intersecting at angles they can't control. Their reputation begins to fray at the edges. They feel a little tension, a little heat, a little weight pressing down. Not enough to panic, just enough to make them uncomfortable. But discomfort is where justice likes to begin. Then comes the moment, the shift, the snap, the turn. It could be something small. A rumor reaching the wrong ear, a friend stepping away, an opportunity disappearing, a plan backfiring. Or it could be something big, a secret exposed, a truth uncovered, a consequence landing squarely on the doorstep they thought no one could find. And when it happens, it's never subtle. It's never quiet anymore. What started in silence ends in impact. But don't mistake the suddenness for surprise. Justice wasn't absent before. It was gathering momentum. It was studying, preparing, positioning every little piece. It was giving them time. Time to show more of who they really are. Time to walk right into the consequences they set for themselves. And when justice finally moves, it doesn't hesitate. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't knock politely. It arrives with perfect timing, the kind that feels almost theatrical, almost intentional, almost inevitable. Justice doesn't need noise to work. It doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't need applause. It simply waits for the right second, the right weakness, the right opening. And when it finally steps forward, it moves with a force that feels like fate itself tightening its grip. Your silence was never weakness. People love to twist that one, don't they? They see you quiet, calm, composed, and they assume you're powerless. They mistake restraint for fear, patience for passivity, dignity for defeat. They look at you and think, this one won't fight back. And oh, how wrong they are. Because silence, real silence, isn't empty. It's loaded. It's the kind of quiet that makes guilty people nervous. The kind of quiet that makes the cruel wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you're capable of. Silence is unsettling because it holds more truth than their noise ever could. See, weak people don't stay silent. Weak people thrash, scream, demand attention, beg for validation. Weak people can't stand stillness, they panic in it. But someone who chooses silence, that's someone who's thinking, someone who's observing, someone who's learning the layout of the battlefield before taking the first step. Silence is not surrender, it's strategy. It's the art of not giving the enemy a map of your mind. And the ones who hurt you, the ones who pushed, prodded, mocked, and whispered behind your back, they thought your quiet meant you were harmless. They thought your calm meant you were oblivious. They thought your lack of reaction meant you were easy to break. But they never realized that your silence was your shield. It kept you sane. It kept you centered. It kept you from becoming like them. You didn't respond to every insult because you knew those words weren't worth the breath it would take to answer. You didn't lash out because their behavior didn't deserve the dignity of your rage. You didn't expose them right away because you understood that the truth of who someone is eventually exposes itself. You weren't weak, you were waiting, and waiting takes far more strength than reacting ever will. Your silence made them uncomfortable. Oh, they'll never admit it, but it did. They expected you to break, to snap, to crumble so they could justify everything they did. But instead, you stayed quiet. You stayed steady. And that shook them. Because when someone doesn't react the way a cruel person expects, that cruel person loses control. And losing control terrifies them. They wanted you loud, emotional, chaotic. They wanted you to defend yourself desperately so they could twist the story. But you gave them nothing. You offered no fuel for their little fires. And without fuel, their flames slowly turned on them. The very silence they mistook for weakness became the mirror they couldn't escape. And when someone guilty looks into silence, all they see is themselves staring back. Silence also has a way of aging truth. The longer you stay quiet, the louder the truth eventually becomes. It spreads. It settles. It gathers weight. People begin to notice things on their own. The inconsistencies, the strange behaviors, the cracks in the mask of the ones who wronged you. Your silence didn't protect them, it exposed them. They spoke so much, they eventually gave themselves away. You didn't need to bring justice. They carried it to themselves. But you want to know the best part. When someone who's been silent finally does speak, that's when the room changes temperature. Because it's not noise, it's clarity. It's not anger, it's truth sharpened to a fine point. Silence isn't the absence of power, it's the containment of it. And contained power is far more frightening than chaos. You were never weak for staying quiet. You were disciplined. You were deliberate. You were strong enough not to be dragged into the mud where they were desperate to pull you. Your silence was your refusal to participate in their ugliness. It was your way of holding onto your own humanity while they were busy losing theirs. Their actions built their own consequences, brick by brick, choice by choice, like a masterpiece of self-destruction they didn't even realize they were crafting. People think consequences come from outside forces, some grand judge in the sky, some cosmic referee blowing a whistle. But no, the most poetic consequences come from them, from the very hands that stirred the trouble. Every lie they told, every betrayal they slipped into the dark, every smug little stunt they thought they got away with, those weren't escapes. Those were signatures on the bill life was preparing for them. See, people imagine they're clever when they're cruel. They think they're calculating, untouchable, strategic. They imagine themselves as puppeteers pulling strings. But cruelty isn't intelligence, it's impulse. It's sloppy. And sloppy actions pile up faster than they can sweep them away. Every time they laughed at your pain, every time they played innocent after twisting the knife, every time they walked away thinking they'd won, they were laying down another stone in the path that leads right back to them. And the funny thing? They never notice. Oh, never. They believe the world has short memory. They believe people don't pay attention. They believe consequences only happen to others. So they keep pushing, keep scheming, keep taking advantage of your kindness, as if your patience was some bottomless resource they could mine forever. But your kindness didn't protect them. It protected you. Because while they were busy digging a pit for you, they didn't realize the edge was crumbling under their own feet. Actions, especially cruel ones, come with a timer. Sometimes the countdown is slow, almost silent. But
it's always ticking.
Maybe they don't feel it at first. Maybe life keeps going smoothly. Maybe their little victories stack up. They get bolder, they get louder. They get reckless. They mistake temporary luck for immunity. But consequences aren't luck-based. They're crafted, shaped, forged by the very choices they made. And eventually those choices circle back, like shadows catching up when the sun finally goes down. You ever notice how people who do wrong to others always end up paranoid? They start wondering who's talking behind their back. They start sensing tension in places that used to feel comfortable. They start feeling watched, judged, exposed. It's not paranoia, it's recognition. Deep down, they know what they've done. They know they planted seeds that won't grow into anything beautiful. They know they've built something unstable, fragile, ready to collapse with one good push from reality. And when things finally do go wrong for them, they always act shocked. Why is this happening to me? They whine, as if the universe suddenly rolled dice and landed on their name by accident. No, what's happening to them isn't random. It's a replay. An echo. A harvest. They're just meeting the parts of themselves they tried so hard to hide. Their consequences aren't punishments, they're reflections. People don't get destroyed by what they did to you. They get destroyed by what they became in the process of doing it. They chipped away at their own integrity, their own stability, their own peace of mind. While they were sharpening knives for you, they dulled their own future. While they were setting traps, they forgot which steps were safe. While they were performing cruelty in the dark, they didn't notice the cracks forming under their feet. And as time goes by, their own actions start whispering back to them. Opportunities slip away, relationships crumble, trust evaporates, support disappears. They begin to realize that the person they pretended to be can't save them from the person they truly are. They wanted to build a victory at your expense, but instead, they built a downfall at theirs. The grand twist is that you never had to sabotage them. You never had to fight dirty. You never had to seek revenge. Their behavior was the blueprint of their collapse, and they followed it faithfully, step by step, like a script they didn't know they were reading from. The universe keeps better score than people think. Oh, that's the part that really rattles them. They walk around believing life is some messy, disorganized system where they can get away with whatever they want as long as nobody catches them in the act. But the universe, it's watching with both eyes open. It pays attention in ways people never expect. It tracks patterns, intentions, energy. It listens to the things people say when they think no one's listening, and it remembers the things they do when no one's watching. The scorekeeper they fear isn't you. It's everything around them. People assume justice is about rules, about consequences written on paper. But the universe doesn't need legal codes to balance things out. It doesn't need witnesses, judges, or punishments. It simply takes note of every push, every lie, every betrayal, every moment someone chooses cruelty over compassion. And it files it away, carefully, quietly, precisely. The universe is patient enough to wait for the exact moment when the scales need to tip, and it never forgets who put the weight there in the first place. Those who wronged you think they escaped because nothing happened right after they hurt you. They glance around, see no lightning bolts, no dramatic collapse, and they think, see, nothing touched me. But the universe doesn't play the instant gratification game. It prefers long arcs, slow turns, subtle shifts. It waits until the timing is perfect. It waits until they've strutted around in their false victory long enough to believe it's permanent. And then, when they least expect it, that's when the score comes due. You noticed how they got comfortable, didn't you? How they laughed a little louder, mocked you a little bolder, acted like fate itself had chosen them as the golden child. But comfort is always the bait. The universe lets them feel safe so they'll reveal more of themselves, make more mistakes, stack more imbalance onto the scales. It waits for them to write their own downfall with the ink of their arrogance. And eventually, they start wondering why everything is slipping, why the luck they once had has vanished, why people lose trust in them, why opportunities crumble in their hands. The universe doesn't shout the answer at them. It just lets them live in it. What they never realize is that energy doesn't disappear. Cruelty they throw out doesn't evaporate. Pain they cause doesn't fade into the void. Everything circulates. Everything recycles. Everything returns. The universe doesn't punish out of anger. It balances out of equilibrium. You give what you want to receive. You plant what you eventually have to harvest. They planted poison and expected flowers. They planted lies and expected loyalty. They planted betrayal and expected stability. The universe doesn't let that slide. It just waits for the right season to show them the truth. And you, standing there quietly, taking the hits, holding your peace. They thought your silence gave them victory. But the universe saw you. It saw your restraint, your endurance, your refusal to sink to their level. It saw you hold your dignity while they threw theirs into the fire. And that matters more than they realize. Because the universe doesn't only keep score of the harm done. It keeps score of the strength shown. It keeps score of the battles fought internally. It keeps score of every moment you chose growth over destruction. The ones who wronged you believed the scoreboard was blank. But the universe had been marking tallies long before they even knew the game had started. And when it's time to settle things, the universe doesn't need your permission, your revenge, your effort. It moves on its own, quietly, precisely, Inevitably. What they tried to break will rise stronger. Oh, that's the part that keeps them up at night. They thought your spirit was some fragile toy they could snap in half and walk away laughing. They thought one betrayal, one humiliation, one well-aimed wound would be enough to shatter you. They never imagined you'd gather the pieces, study them, and come back with a version of yourself they can't even recognize anymore. They don't realize that when you take a hit and stay standing, you don't stay the same, you sharpen, you evolve. You become something they never intended to create. People who scheme against you always think they know your limits. They think they've measured your strength, calculated your breaking point, mapped out exactly how much you can endure before collapsing. But suffering doesn't make you predictable. Pain doesn't make you weaker. It makes you deeper. It pushes you into places within yourself that comfort never lets you see. And when you come back from those places, you carry something they don't have. A kind of clarity, a kind of grit, a kind of resilience that can't be faked or stolen or copied. They pushed you, not realizing that pressure doesn't always crack a person. Sometimes it compresses them into something tougher. Something unshakable. Every insult they whispered, every doubt they tried to plant, every obstacle they threw in your path. Those weren't seeds of your destruction. They were sparks. And sparks don't extinguish a person like you. They ignite them. They light parts of you that were sleeping dormant, untouched. They turn you into a version of yourself forged in fire. And here's the irony: the whole time they were trying to break you, you were learning how people like them operate, learning how to read the warning signs you once ignored, learning how to protect your peace with a sharper edge. You learned what loyalty really means by watching what betrayal feels like. You learned to value truth because you tasted the rot of lies. You learned to recognize strength because you saw yourself standing in moments when no one believed you could. You didn't rise in spite of them, you rose because of them. Not because they helped you, but because they exposed everything you needed to outgrow. They forced you to confront parts of yourself you might have never touched without their cruelty. They thought they were destroying your confidence, but all they did was clear out the weak parts of your environment. They thought they were dimming your light, but all they did was show you where your power actually lies. And now they're the ones who feel uneasy. They see you walking differently, speaking differently, carrying yourself with a weight that wasn't there before. They can sense the shift. It bothers them. It confuses them, because people who try to break others expect collapse, not transformation. They expect you to crawl, not rise. They expect you to lick your wounds, not wear them like armor. They expected damage, not rebirth. But rebirth is exactly what happened, not the soft, delicate kind they show in stories. No, yours is the sharp kind, the kind forged under pressure, the kind that comes with new instincts, new boundaries, new eyes that see through people like glass. You're not the person they tried to hurt. That version of you may have been vulnerable, trusting, open in ways that made you a target, but that version didn't survive. You did. And what stands now is someone they can't manipulate, can't deceive, can't break with the same tricks they once relied on. They wanted to cut you down, but all they did was prune what no longer served you. They wanted to weaken you, but all they did was reveal where your real strength was hiding. They wanted to control your story, but all they did was push you into writing a new chapter they never saw coming.